It started with a laugh, my favorite sound in the world. That low, unfiltered one my boyfriend makes when he's tipsy and trying to play it cool. We were tucked away in the corner booth of a dimly lit bar, celebrating my birthday. Candles flickered. My drink was warm with sugar and spice. And my best friend Lena was already 3 cocktails in, leaning over the table like the secrets in her mouth were too heavy to hold. I swear, she whispered, pointing between us with a lazy, conspiratorial smile, "You two are the hottest couple I know." I felt the warmth of her words bloom in my chest. Then she added, "If I had you both for just one night, I don't think I'd survive it." I laughed. Maybe it was the wine, or the glow of being loved, or the heat in her eyes, but something in me cracked open. I turned to my boyfriend, feeling reckless and untouchable. "I've thought about it," I said, so casually it scared me. "You and her." At the same time. There was a beat of silence. His eyes snapped to mine, then to hers. And then she, brave or drunk or both, leaned in and murmured, "Well, what if we didn't just think about it?" My breath caught. I don't remember what song was playing, only that the bass felt like it was inside my skin. I glanced at him. He looked stunned, but there was something else in his expression too. Something like hunger. And then Lena said the words that tipped the night into something I would never come back from. "My friend's got a cabin. 10 minutes from here. She's out of town." And just like that, the night stopped being about cake and birthday candles. It became about what happens when fantasies are no longer safe inside your mind. I wasn't sure if it was the best idea I'd ever had, or the most dangerous. But when his hand found mine under the table and hers followed a second later, I knew this night wouldn't end with candles being blown out. It would end with something being lit. The car ride was too quiet. Not in sound but in restraint. Lena sat behind me, her fingers occasionally brushing the back of my seat like she was thinking of reaching forward, like she couldn't decide what she wanted more, my hand or his. And I couldn't stop thinking about how I was in the middle of both. He drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting where my dress met my thigh. His thumb moved in slow, deliberate circles that didn't match the beat of the music. Each one made it harder to breathe. It wasn't rushed, no. It was worse. It was patient. Lena leaned forward between us, her breath warm near my neck. "You okay?" she whispered, but I heard the real question, "Are you ready?" I nodded, but I didn't feel steady. My pulse was in my ears, my chest, my fingertips. The cabin looked like a postcard, dark wood, a wraparound porch, string lights that hummed softly in the silence. We stepped inside like we were trespassing, not on someone's property but on something sacred. The kind of night you don't plan but can't undo. Inside, the air was still and slightly cool. We didn't turn on many lights. Just one, by the kitchen, soft, golden, enough to see by. He opened a bottle of wine. Lena disappeared into the bathroom. I stood in the living room, unsure of what to do with my hands, my mouth, my thoughts. Then I felt him behind me. His arms wrapped around my waist, chin brushing my shoulder. "Are you sure?" he asked, voice low and threaded with hesitation. I turned to look at him, really look. His eyes weren't hungry anymore, they were asking. "I want to see you want her," I said. "And I want you to want me just as much." Something shifted in him. In us. And just then, Lena returned, barefoot, flushed, wrapped in a blanket she must have found in the bedroom. Her hair loose. Her smile slow. "You two gonna keep whispering or should I come closer?" I didn't answer. I just reached for her hand. Lena's hand was warm, trembling slightly in mine. Not with fear, but anticipation. Like a storm waiting to happen. She looked at me first. Just me, and there was something unspoken in her eyes. Permission. Curiosity. A hint of danger. Then she looked at him. And when she stepped forward, it felt like we were walking into something ancient. A ritual we didn't fully understand but couldn't stop ourselves from completing. He stood still, waiting, hands at his sides like he didn't trust them. Lena brushed past me first, walking to him with the kind of confidence that comes only when you know you're wanted. She placed her palm flat against his chest and whispered, "Relax." It was the way she said it, soft but certain, that made something inside me spark. And then slowly she turned and reached for me. Her fingers brushed my cheek, and her lips were suddenly there, gentle, tasting of wine and wonder. I didn't expect the kiss to feel like that. Like warmth uncoiling inside me. Like questions I'd buried rising to the surface. Her touch was delicate but sure, her breath hitching against my lips like even she hadn't imagined how electric this would feel. Then he moved. Not rushed. Not hungry. He simply stepped forward, his hands finding our waists, his presence anchoring us in this moment. When his lips met Lena's, right there in front of me, it was like watching fire spread. And when he turned to kiss me next, I wasn't ready for the way it made my knees weaken. It wasn't just the heat. It was the care. The reverence. Like he was tasting something he'd dreamed of but never thought he'd touch. Lena's hand slid down my arm, grounding me. And I realized we weren't competing. We were circling something together. Something we all wanted, but none of us could name yet. He kissed us one after the other, slow, deep, dizzying. Each time he pulled away, I could see the change in his eyes. Like we were becoming something else entirely. And I wanted more. Not just of him. Of us. We didn't go to the bedroom. It was Lena's idea, and somehow it made everything feel even more surreal. The kitchen counter, she said, half laughing as she leaned against it, feels more like a secret. And she was right. There was something about the cool marble under our skin, the dim light above us, the open window letting in the hush of midnight air. It didn't feel like a performance. It felt like surrender. He lifted me up first, his hands firm on my hips, guiding me onto the edge of the counter like I was weightless. His eyes never left mine, not even when Lena moved behind him, her fingers tracing the hem of his shirt, tugging it upward in slow, reverent inches. I felt her breath before I saw her again. Then she was in front of me, her body between my legs, her face close enough that I could taste the wine on her lips before we even touched. The kiss was softer this time. Not exploratory but familiar. She kissed like someone who wanted to understand me from the inside out. And just as her hand slid to my thighs, his mouth found the curve of my neck, hot, open, unhurried. I tilted my head, giving him more. My fingers tangled in his hair. Lena's hands moved higher, her thumb brushing against skin that hadn't been touched like that in a long time. My breath stuttered out of me. His lips moved from my throat to my collarbone, and I felt every nerve light up, as if he was speaking directly to them. The heat between us wasn't just from skin or friction, it was from everything we weren't saying, all the years of silent wondering finally unraveling. When Lena kissed him, slowly, deeply, I watched. I felt my body react like it was being kissed too. I could see his hand tighten on her waist, his breath catch in his throat, and when he turned back to me, something in him had shifted. He was no longer holding back. He leaned in and whispered, "You're still mine." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because the way I pulled him to me set everything. Time stopped making sense. It was no longer minutes and seconds, it was measured in touch and breath and how long someone could hold a gaze before looking away. At some point, Lena slid to the floor, her back against the cabinets, legs folded beneath her like she was trying to ground herself. I sat on the counter still, my dress hiked up, his shirt long gone, his chest warm where our skin touched. He stood between my knees, eyes flicking between me and her like he was caught in a dream too wild to believe, too dangerous to wake from. I reached for her first. My fingers curled into her hair, guiding her up to me, and when our lips met again, the electricity was quieter now, deeper. It felt like I was being let in. Like I was kissing her heart. His hand slid along my thighs, slow and reverent, and I could feel him watching us, his breath growing shallow with every stolen second. Lena turned to him, her forehead resting against his chest, and whispered something I couldn't hear. But the way he exhaled, shaky, undone, told me it unraveled him. Then she stepped aside and he kissed me again. But this time it was different. There was no more hesitation, no more wondering if we were crossing a line. We were already far beyond it. His hands gripped my hips like he needed to memorize the shape of me. My legs wrapped around him on instinct, and when his mouth brushed the shell of my ear, I couldn't hold back the sound it pulled from me. Lena stood behind him, her hands ghosting over his back, her eyes locked on mine like we were sharing a secret language. Her fingers slid down, finding mine, and for a moment, it was just the three of us, pulsing with breath and heat and the weight of everything we were finally brave enough to want. I felt tears sting behind my eyes, not from sadness, but from something overwhelming. Something beautiful. I had never felt more exposed. Or more alive. Somewhere between the kisses and the quiet gasps, between the warmth of Lena's touch and the way his breath scattered across my skin, I realized we hadn't planned this. We had simply let it happen. And maybe that's what made it unforgettable. We ended up on the rug, bare, tangled, wrapped in a blanket we'd pulled from the couch. The fire we didn't light crackled only in us in the silence between our heartbeats. Lena lay on one side of me, her head resting on my shoulder, her fingers gently tracing the curve of my ribs. He was on the other, one arm draped over my waist, pulling me closer like he still couldn't believe I was real. The air was thick with aftermath, not regret, not confusion, but a kind of raw, emotional fullness that had no name. I felt seen in a way that was almost too much. Like they'd both touched something deeper than skin. None of us spoke. There was no need. The tension had broken, but something new remained, softer, quieter. A secret that would always live in this room, this night, this version of us we'd only just discovered. Lena exhaled first, her breath catching a little like she was afraid to speak it into existence. That was, she whispered, but didn't finish. I turned to her, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I know. He kissed my forehead. Then hers. And in that tiny wordless moment, I understood. It wasn't about who did what, or who had who. It was about the fact that we let ourselves be wanted. Completely. Messily. Honestly. Not everyone gets that. And the strangest part? I don't know what changed after. But I know none of us walked away the same.